Hello, Journal Goddesses. Welcome again to another Tea Talk where I talk to creatives about their spiritual journey and their creative journey and how they got to where they are today. And the internet is vast and wide, and so I really love the way that it connects us, especially with my dear, dear, dear sweet friend, Lori Lynn Hurly, who does these gorgeous, gorgeous prayer paintings. She has this deep spiritual vein running throughout her prayer paintings, as well as this deep connection to the divine feminine in her form as Mother Mary, and just gorgeous human being. And I cannot wait for you to get to know her a little bit better. Lori Lynn, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Oh, thank you. I love your videos and I'm so excited to be in one.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So take me back a little bit. What was kind of the calling that got you started in just creating the artwork for yourself?
So I always was an artist when I was a kid. When I was young, I was always involved in creative expression, and I didn't know if that was going to be a part, how that would be a part of my life later, but I always just knew that's where I was happy. That's where I was drawn. And so I ended up majoring in studio art in college and then doing graduate work in fiction writing. And so I did all this study around art making and creativity, and then I kind of got off that path. Like as I became an adult and started living life, and there were all of these voices and things that you have to do, and I kind of started channeling my creativity in different ways, because I don't think you can ever not be creative. Everybody's creative.
Right. I agree.
I wasn't actively making art for quite a while. And one day, really, it was a snow day, and I remember just sitting on my couch and realizing, like, I have to paint. Like, I'm really called to paint. Like, I really need to do it. And so I bought some canvas and some paint, and I was really frightened to go back into it. I think there's a lot of weird societal stuff about making art, and especially when you've gone to school and been in that arena, and all this emotion came up for me in doing it. But as soon as I started doing it again, I realized that this doorway had opened up. Like, this was something that I was meant to do. It was a part of me that had nothing to do with what the paintings looked like. I mean, it didn't even matter if I just painted over and over and over on the same canvas again. It was the act of painting that was really important to me. And the more I did it, the more I realized that painting for me was a form of prayer, in that it was connecting me to the divine, the same way that meditation does, the same way that other religious and spiritual practices do, that it was removing me from time. It was removing me from my thoughts, those little chattery thoughts that go by. It was taking me into my larger self, into the divine self, and into that connection with God. And so I became obsessed with it at that point.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's gorgeous. And you pointed out something that I think is really, really important and we're starting to see more of that, like with us gathering with social media, with the art journals and things, is that you said that it didn't matter what it looked like. And I think on a smaller scale, especially with art journals, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. But you took it on this wider scale and actually physically got on canvas. And so I find that really, really fascinating, because I know for myself, like I work tiny, but working bigger almost feels kind of like I'm exploring a more vulnerable place. And so I kind of shy away from it a little bit for myself, but I know there is richness in that. And you spoke a little bit about that richness that you are finding in working on the larger canvas. Gorgeous, gorgeous.
Thank you. It's true. And I think there is a vulnerability to that is also where the sweet stuff is, you know, like those two things tend to go together.
And so you also talked about you had a little bit of fear around it. What was that fear about? Were you able to kind of sort through that fear in the process of doing?
Well, I think from this point, looking back, I can say that it was about being seen, because for me, art making reveals like your true inner deepest self. And so there's you know, you're taking that mask off that you sometimes wear throughout your life, that mask of protection, and really allowing yourself to be seen. But also I think that just in culture, from the time we're really young, we get a lot of programming about art making, about who's allowed to do it and who isn't, and what good means, and what a painting is supposed to look like. And throughout my whole life of making art, I've never been like a realistic, you know, I've never created like realistic, oh, that looks just like her drawings or paintings. That's not how I work. It's never been how I work. And I think sometimes we have those voices in our head, and I definitely had those voices in my head, that that's what good art was, and I didn't want to make bad art. And so I had to push through that fear of being judged, of having people look at what I was doing and thinking that it was worthless, or you know, why am I wasting my time doing this? And I don't, you know, all of that was just like this fog of confusion that I had to walk through and put behind me in order to do it.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. And so has your art always kind of centered around the sacred, once you kind of discovered that was a place of juiciness for you?
Definitely in this latter part of when I started painting again, for sure. And when I look back at my work when I was younger, I would also say, yes, it was just a very different form, and I probably wouldn't have used that language around it, but yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. And so you kind of pushed through, you got through that fog, you found the richness. And what was the calling of your heart to really bring that out and offer these prayer paintings for others as well?
That part is a little mystical, I guess, because I just started getting that message. Like, it was just coming to me, the way that messages come, you know, like this push, like to do it, to offer it, to see, because I feel and have always felt really called into healing arts. And I worked as an energy healer for a while, and that's also always been a part of me. And so I think with everything that I do, I get to a point where I think, well, how does this serve someone else? And how can I do what I'm doing and do what I love to do in a way that connects me with other people and benefits other people and is something that might help other people. And so it seemed kind of crazy to me, because I thought, how could I sell a prayer painting? Because I don't know what they're going to look like. They're intuitively painted. I don't plan them. They just happen. And it seemed, again, scary to me to do that, because what if you give me your prayer and I paint it and you hate the painting, and then what do we do?
Right.
But I just felt like this is what I'm being asked to do, and this is the message that's coming to me again and again, and I've been really, really surprised by the responses to the paintings. And I shouldn't be surprised, because it's just another one of those things where you have to let go and trust, and if you let go and trust, then it all works out. But you know, it's not me. Like, that sounds weird, but it's not me. When I open up to painting for someone else and I go into that prayer state, something is moving through me, and I just trust that what comes out on the canvas is what that person needs to receive, and let it go.
Beautiful. And I totally understand that, being that, you know, I do this priestess work, and as I gather to circle with women, I physically ask myself to be out of the way and allow whatever needs to come through in the highest service to come through. And I think it's a very creative space to be in, actually. I feel, to kind of open and allow yourself just to kind of connect with that intuition. And I think especially when we were talking about the cultural kind of The cultural overlay of what is art, what isn't art, good versus bad, and then also just the trusting your intuition, especially being in a feminine body, being identified as woman, and having that woman's intuition kind of poo-pooed,
Mhm.
for so many years. And I think we're slowly starting to swing that pendulum back. It's a little it's a little bit of work, I think, to kind of
Yeah,
swing that pendulum back. And I think you're
yeah.
doing it in a very beautiful way.
Thank you.
When you get a commission for a prayer painting, take me a
Mhm.
little bit through that process. What does that look like?
I actually, it's very literally a prayer. I have a form that people fill out when they want a painting, where they tell me as much information as they wish to about their prayer, their wish, their intention. Language varies for people, depending on what their religious practice is or what their belief is around God and around prayer. And that's all great. It's however they want to give that information to me. And then when I go to the canvas, I have some things that I do to kind of set the space. I will light candles. I will meditate for a little bit and get myself centered. I have a sage bundle that I'll sometimes clear with. And then I write the prayer on the canvas as if I am praying on behalf of this person, the same way that anybody in your life would say, well, will you pray for me, or will you say this prayer for me? That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I'm doing. I'm just praying for them on the canvas. And then I choose a color palette and I start to just move color on the canvas without thinking about what the finished painting is going to look like at all. And I'm really just listening and watching what is moving forward. And
Mm-hmm.
then I will start to see, the image come forward. And I do have a voice that I paint in. I mean, I tend to paint these feminine faces. And so there is, I guess, a sameness to the way my paintings look, but there also is the individual energy and personality of the person who has asked for the prayer, and that also comes through. And sometimes people will give me a lot of information, like that
Mm-hmm.
certain animals that they're drawn to or colors that they're drawn to, and some people give me very little information, and it really is just up to the person how much they want to share.
I think that's really fascinating, because then you put the prayer on the canvas, and then it's like you're adding layers and layers and layers and layers of prayer on top of prayer on top of prayer on top of prayer. And so then it becomes really more than just artwork for the sake of artwork. It really becomes this vibrational kind of attunement modality that,
Mhm.
if it's hanging in somebody's house, then they can look at it and remember uh,
Yeah.
that prayer, remember that intention that was set on their behalf. And really, it brings kind of a communal aspect into their space. Do you feel like you're kind of in a prayer community when you're doing these paintings?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Because I do believe so strongly that we are all connected and that we
Mm,
are all individual expressions of the same big thing. And so when it's an intimate thing to pray on someone's behalf and to enter into their wishes, their intentions, or their fears, or whatever it is that we're working with. And I feel like there is a piece of me that goes into the painting. And so when someone has that painting in their home, like you say, they continue to build the energy of the painting, because it's not just an image. It is, we have put all of this energy and all of this love into it. And I always tell people, that your painting will talk. It'll continue to speak to you. It'll say things to you that it didn't say to me, because it
mm.
wants to you. And so, yeah, I feel that connection between all of us, that it's coming through here, it's coming through me, and then it's going to you. um, and that painting is just the physical reminder of that connection that we have and that love that we are
Mm.
flowing to one another.
And it's a very symbiotic kind of, you get the benefit, but then the person that you're making with the art gets the benefit. And then
Yeah.
have you heard back from other people who you've created art for about different messages and things? And then is it a continuing relationship?
Yeah, I do hear from people, and there are some people who have them who I see on a regular basis, and they'll tell me, where they have it hanging in their home. Like I have it hanging over my desk, and I see her every day, and I talk to her every day, and so yeah, I do, and I do think that the feeling from the paintings is something that evolves, and so you because you kind of deepen that meditation or that prayer yourself when you're looking at it and seeing new things in it, or how is it speaking to me. Yeah.
Gorgeous,
Yeah.
gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I absolutely love, love, love the idea of that, of coming together in community and having this representation of the community of prayer, and our individual and collective connection to each other. I think that's a gorgeous expression of just, the multifaceted divine.
Right. Yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So I have one more question. Well, actually, I have a couple more questions for you, because you're doing this kind of energetic work. And how are you doing the energetic work of taking care of yourself or self-honoring as you are preparing to do this kind of work, or when like you're feeling, oh, I don't feel particularly creative, or my creative well feels a little dry? How are you filling yourself up?
Yeah, that's important, because something that it took me a pretty long time in my life to figure out is where my sensitivity levels are and how much connection I can have before I need to unplug and retreat and fill my well back up, which again, it's one of those things, where I think sometimes I have to struggle against the selfishness thing. Like, is it okay for me to just like take the day off and not, we're in this work mentality all the time. And so even though the work I'm doing is work I want to be doing, that I'm very passionate about and that I love, it is still work, in that I'm connecting with other people and feeling what their feelings. And so I do have to do a lot of clearing for myself and connection for myself. So I do a lot of silent meditation, which I think of silent meditation and prayer as being exactly the same thing. I mean, I don't have to be talking in order to pray. I'm just connecting. So I do that in the mornings and evenings, and I do salt bathing is a big thing for me because I love water and that helps me clear. But I do have to pay attention to my own energy levels, and I can tell, like, if I'm starting to get frustrated, or I'm starting to get fearful, or I'm starting to feel anxiety, then I need to back up and get into my own space for a little while and take care of myself and fill that back up before I can come back into the work. And learning to do this for other people, that certainly was part of it. That when I first started taking commissions, I would have this feeling like I have to finish this painting, it's paid for, and I have to get it to the person as quickly as possible. But that doesn't always work. Like sometimes there's a painting on my easel and it is paid for, and I have to take the day off and I can't go into that painting because I won't fully be present for it. I have to get myself ready first and then go in.
And do you find that when you allow yourself that time in that space, you're actually having a better outcome, or an outcome that you're happier
With the painting?
With the paintings, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. If I'm good, if my energy's good and I've taken care of myself, I can get into that space a little more quickly, where the painting just happens and my hand is not in it so much. And if my hand is in it too much, that's when I keep repainting and repainting and repainting until I can get to that place. Yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. What do you feel is the overall medicine or message that you would like to convey in sharing your art in the world?
Love. That we are so abundantly loved, that we are extensions of that love, and that when it comes to God and spirituality and how we're living our lives and who we are, there is no reason to be afraid. There's nothing to fear. We are so loved, and we don't necessarily understand everything about life, and there is a great mystery in all of this. But when we live from a fear-based place, we shut down the magnitude of what we are and the amazing creative beings that we are. But when we allow ourselves to understand ourselves as loved and vessels of love, then we see how big and expansive our lives can be, and how creative we are, and how beautiful we are. And we can live in a sort of freedom. And I think that's really the heart of it, is that I would hope that when anyone encounters me, that maybe they would walk away feeling free to be who they are, free to be who they were born to be, knowing that they are surrounded by this amazing divine love.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So my last question for you today, Lori Lynn, is what would you like to see happen as creative in the 21st century? What place would you like for creatives to occupy?
I see this happening already with shifts that I think are taking place with the sacred feminine and with the feminine voice. But I would really love to see creative expression and creative work be honored as a wisdom path, as a way that we know things, as a way that we express truth to one another, as opposed to something that's kind of off to the side that you do if you have enough time, that's, a sweet little hobby. But really, what I believe creative expression really is, which is a pathway to wisdom and truth and sacred.
Beautiful. From your lips to the divine's ears, may it be so. I love, love, love that. Love it, love it, love it. Lori Lynn, thank you again so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And I love your work. And
You.
Journal Goddesses, you really want to follow her on Instagram. She shares some of her process on Instagram, and she talks kind of in the voice of her painting. And I find just even getting those little glimpses into her process really a spark of inspiration for myself. So I've got all of her contact information in the description box down below. Lori Lynn, again, thank you so much for taking the time with me. And Journal Goddesses, if you enjoyed this content, do give me a thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe to my channel, because I've got tons more amazing, amazing creatives from around the web that I am scheduling to interview. So until next time, do take care and go do something creative for yourself.